Welcome to the Prophets in Pajamas podcast. I'm Danielle D, or Coach Danni D, and I help women entrepreneurs and professionals to achieve their personal success stories that include joy, fulfillment, and balance. This is where we talk about how to build your business in a way that allows you to work with ease, be successful, and enjoy your life. My happy place is spending as much time in my PJs as humanly possible. And I want to help other women find their happy space while running profitable businesses or having a successful career. So get comfortable and let's dig in. Hello and welcome to the Prophets in Pajamas podcast. I am your host, Coach Danni D, always here helping you to redefine success and remove that grind from the process. I am also here just to help you get all of the things out of the way, right? Get everything out of the way that is stopping you from executing at a high level. So that might be dealing with confidence and imposter syndrome and mindset. That might be dealing with calendar detox, where we're just removing all that excess that's stopping us from being able to focus. That might be creating effective systems in your life and business that help you to do more while doing less, right? All those things. And I have an actionable spirit. So I always help my clients to go from concept to action much faster so they can execute, so they can start seeing results, and so they can take over the world, right? Like my whole entire goal is that if we can get as many women as possible in a space where they are working in their zone of excellence, how beautiful would the world be, right? Okay, so enough about that. This is what I want to talk to you about today. So, one of the things that kind of is a part of that process to get you there is walking in obedience, right? Y'all know I walk with the Lord. That's not everybody's journey, and I'm good with that. And maybe it's the universe. I don't know how your personal way of looking at things. But whatever it is, I want you to hone in on that, whatever that looks like, right? We are placed with a calling on our lives or, a passion, a purpose, right? We're placed with that. And with that comes a certain pathway. And we don't always know exactly what that pathway looks like, but there are always little clues, little hints, little directives of where to go or where not to go. So, some people will say, you know, God told me this, or you're waiting for confirmation from God on certain things or his guidance. Um, I feel like that is also very heavily connected to intuition. So maybe you don't believe in God as your higher power, but you still have human intuition, right? For me, I think those things are linked, but for you, they may not be, right? But there is that intuition, there's that voice that says, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. A lot of times, over time, we muffle the voice either by listening to what mainstream says that we should be doing, what people who may not have our best interests say that we should be doing, listening to what is feels easier, what makes us feel safer. And I don't mean safe in the sense of safety versus danger, but just like comfortable, like it doesn't require us to stretch ourselves or grow. So a lot of times we let other things alter that little voice, that instinct that tells us, do this. Or we reason ourselves out of it, right? We say, oh no, because da 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 da. Or sometimes we just straight up ignore it. We just make a decision that we're gonna go in this direction. And we heard the voice, but we just was like, yeah, maybe it said that. I don't know. And we choose to ignore it and we choose to move forward, even though that voice has said no. Or that voice has said, maybe you should think about this a little more thoroughly, right? Sometimes we, do the exact opposite, which is we will try to manipulate what we're saying that voice is saying, right? So sometimes when the voice might be saying investigate, we say the voice says no, right? Because we're scared to do the thing. We're scared to do, sometimes we want to be overly ambitious and just run into things that are not meant for us. And other times we want to be overly cautious and hide from the things. So what I'm saying is that we need to sit in honesty. We need to sit in honesty and reconnect to that voice and reconnect to walking in obedience. Because when we step out of that, then we're not walking the path designed for our success. That doesn't mean that if think about it, like if you go on a walk and there's a, walking path and you decide to take a turn, that doesn't mean that you'll never get there. Like, I don't want you to feel like, oh, well, I did this thing and it didn't, it wasn't the right thing. And now it's, gloom and doom and everything is over. It doesn't mean that. It's just a detour. And had you not taken that detour, maybe you would be at a different point right now, right? But sometimes we need to take that detour. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying go out and make bad decisions. I'm not saying go out and do things that you know are not aligned. What I'm saying is sometimes that detour is the reminder of where we're supposed to be. So sometimes, it's kind of like, um, I've always, well, I'm saying this, but I'm about to share a story that's kind of counter to it. I've always been a person that I can see that the fire is hot and say, you know what, I'm not going to touch that. Versus, feeling like I got to touch it and learn the lesson. But we all have those moments where we have touched the fire and learned the lesson the hard way. And sometimes it's those hard lessons that really stick with us. And, I can think about different moments where I've had very, very hard lessons that change the trajectory of my life, my business, my whatever. Not that the lesson, like, I don't want, like, the lesson didn't break me, the lesson strengthened me, right? The lesson made me understand I don't belong over there. That's not the right spot. Take my hand off that fire. It's not for me. I don't have the I'm not set up for that, right? So I share a little just my experience in the last week or so. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but I just I didn't trust my gut. Like I saw something, my gut said pass, and my mind started rationalizing, no, 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 you got this. You could make this work, da, 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 right? So I proceed. It in fact did not work. It in fact did not work. And it was it was a blow. It was a blow to me. But, and this is the important part, because one, at a different phase of my life, I would have internalized that failure way differently. And I probably would still be sitting somewhere sulking about it, right? So I had a bad day, and I'm just gonna leave it like that. The little songs that running in my head. You had a bad day. I had a bad day. Immediately the next day, there was a part of me that, really kind of didn't want to jump into the next day. And, if you're local here, last week was all this threat of, this, serious rain that never came. So, that was also, like leaning into, what, I'm just gonna sit in this house and soak, and I'm gonna cancel the date, right? But there were some things that was scheduled that I really couldn't and didn't want to cancel. So I pushed forward and I moved through this day. And this day was designed to show me what obedience looks like. Because the day before, I was still walking in that disobedience, right? I had decided I'm gonna do my thing, even though my gut told me not to. So the following day, there were so many just perfect moments throughout the day, because I was walking in my purpose. I was doing the things that were assigned to me. I was walking in obedience. And so I got to see firsthand how, and consecutively, how disobedience and obedience felt, how low the disobedience felt, and how affirming and high and everything that the obedience felt, right? And in that process, I realized that I gotta trust the process. I gotta trust my instincts, and I gotta be obedient to what God has called me to do. Because if I walk in obedience, doors will be opened. I will be restored. The people that I am, meant to serve will be served. But I have to walk in that obedience, even when it doesn't make sense, even when I don't fully understand. It's something about walking in that obedience that opens doors that have not been previously opened, that, excuse me, that, you feel a connection to what's happening around you in a way that you may not when you're not locked in to that voice, right? That voice that is guiding you. Um, I'll tell y'all another little story. I don't want to get too long-winded on this, but I have this little running joke. Because me and God play with each other. Well, I don't know. I joke. I don't know if he finds it funny, but I do. But anyway, so during COVID, those of you who've been following me know that I have a balloon business, I have a coaching business, right? And during COVID, God very, very clearly said to me, I need you to put the energy into the coaching business that you promised me. So I made a promise to God um the year prior that once the balloon business was to the point of like being self-sustainable, that I would focus my energy on the coaching business. And then rolling into 2020, we had a hugely successful 2019. Rolling into 2020, it was on and popping. Like I had already I was at the threshold of my mid-year goal in March of 2020, right? So 2020, came on and popping, and I forgot about that promise. And then the world stopped. And then the world stopped. And in the quietness, in the stillness, me and God had a lot of conversations. And when there was certain messages revealed to me, I said, God, you been talking this loud the entire time? Or did you just get a new megaphone? Because it was so loud and so clear what I needed to do and what was being asked of me. And the reason why I share that, and I share it often, is because what I realized in hindsight is it's not that God was speaking any louder. My life was quieter and I was locked in. And when I have moments, because I still have moments where I'm like, Lord, I'm not sure what you want me to do and how you want me to move. Then I realize I got to go back to that stillness, to that quietness, and to that connectedness so that I can hear better. Think about when you're on a phone call with someone and that person, you're on a phone call, maybe you're out at a restaurant or something, and somebody calls you and you're trying to understand what they're saying. You can't hear them. The first thing you do is you get up and you go to a quieter place. That's the same thing that you have to do with God, or if it's, your instinct, the universe, you need to get to a space that is quieter and not just physically quieter, like, not just an auditory thing, but sometimes you need to remove yourself from the hustle and bustle and sit back and take a moment back and really, really, really focus in. And that's not always easy because sometimes that stillness is uncomfortable. That, pulling away from the things that are easy or from the busyness, because sometimes busyness is the thing that we use to keep ourselves from having to deal with the stuff that we need to deal with, right? But ultimately, it's in that silence, it's in that thinking and reconnecting that you come across what you need to be doing, where you need to go. And sometimes the answer is, I already told you. So why do you keep asking me? Because you didn't do the last thing. So that last thing is still the answer. It's going to stay the answer until you do that thing. So sometimes you sit there and it's like, well, you're not saying nothing new because there's nothing new to be said because we weren't obedient to the last step. So if we haven't done step 1 and 2, why are we looking for step 3 and 4, right? So it's that reconnect. It's that, you know, return to obedience. It's acknowledging the disobedience because a lot of times when stuff goes wrong, we feel like we failed or, God's not listening or whatever, comes up. But sometimes we're not listening or we are being headstrong and we are making decisions and we never checked back to see if that decision was co-signed, was ordained. We never check. And we just go. And I've had many a moments where I'm like, so Lord, you just let me do all of that. And And God says, "Man, girl, I never said for you to do that. But if that's what you wanted to do, I'm not gonna stop you. But understand that a lot of times, even in obedience, there's gonna be moments that may not always go your way, and those moments do have purpose, right? But a lot of times, what we ascribe as a failure was a moment of disobedience. It didn't pan out because it's not supposed to pan out because that wasn't we had a choice, door one, two, or three, and maybe door one wasn't the right door. Maybe door one wasn't the right door, and we should have phoned a friend. When I say phone a friend, I mean your instincts are God, because I mean I don't know who your friends are. Um, but we should have consulted with our higher being before picking a door. But we just zealously picked a door. And then when it wasn't what we wanted behind that door, then we internalize that. And a lot of times it stops us from even getting back up and picking a different door. So let's take a step back. Let's sit in our thoughts and let's reconnect to that instinct, that higher power, that, whatever it is that is governing your life, and move forward in partnership instead of on our own volition, right? Without taking those little things into account. And oftentimes that does mean rebuilding trust in our gut because we jump over it so often. And I see it so often when people are asking questions or asking for advice. And it's like you hear, even in how they're asking it, you can hear what their gut is saying. But for whatever reason, they want something else to be true. And we have to live with the truth that is, not what we want it to be. So let's reconnect. Let's reconnect. All right. So that's what I got for you today. That's your homework. Reconnect. Figure out what is being said and moving accordingly. Okay. So, what is going on in the workflow universe, right? So, on August 15th, I am going to be doing a book signing for I Don't Do It All and Neither Should You. So, that book signing is going to be at the Barnes and Noble in Metairie from 1 to 3. So, I hope to see you guys there, sign some books for you. Um, then on September 11th through 13th, we will be having the Inflate Your Income, the Business Behind Balloons conference. That is one of my favorite events because, having, like I said, I have a balloon business. I've had that long the, before I've been coaching officially. And one thing that I learned very quickly, and this doesn't just apply to balloons, it can be any kind of event industry, it can be any business, really, if I'm being honest. Like, we do have a portion that's about balloons as far as physically touching balloons, but the rest of it is all about business, growth, client acquisition, pricing, all of those things that are important in growing the business. Because I mean, we can, I've had so many artsy craftsy hobbies on my lifetime, but there's a difference between having a hobby and a business. And most events focus primarily on the balloons and touching balloons. And that's important. When you have a craft, it's important to train and practice that craft and the techniques of the craft. But Again, that's just a crafting hobby until you add the business element to it, until you take it to a place where you can build something sustainable, build something that can retire you like it retired me, build something that can help your financial future, right? Build something that can help you put your child through college because y'all know me and this tuition. Lord have mercy. Um, but that is what we are focusing on. We focus on the things that can help you excel in your business. And I love that my co-host and myself are all action-driven people. So we're not just saying fluffy things to say fluffy things. Everything is actionable. You will walk away with a homework and long-term homework because we want you to walk away with an executable plan that can change the trajectory of your business. And I said that word twice without messing it up. So I might need to play the lotto tonight. So that's going to be September 11th through the 13th in Atlanta. We have a 4th of July special that's going on that ends on August 4th. So take advantage of that and get $400 off of the admission price. Like, how can you beat that? So go ahead and take advantage of that. I'm trying to think of what other things that are going on in my world. I have not put this up yet, but it will be up before the end of the week. But I'm saying it out loud to y'all so I can this is how I one of my ways that I stay actionable is if you announce it, you got to do it, right? So this is, we're at the midpoint of the year, and this is the point for me where I really reflect on what has been done, what needs to be done, and what is slated for the new year, right? I don't plan my new year in January. I plan my new year usually in September, October. So I am working on right now putting together a workshop. I want to do an in-person workshop. I might do one online, depending on the interest. But I want to do an in-person workshop that deals with identifying where you are and what, concrete things you need to do to finish out this year strong. I'm going to, do that as a, group workshop, but I also do what I call a VIP day business retreat. So if you're watching, this is the workbook that goes along with that. And if you, follow me for a while, you know that quarterly I do a retreat for both of my businesses. So I do a retreat for my balloon business, I do a retreat for my coaching business. And basically what that is I take a day or two completely off, isolate myself, no social media, no nothing, except like, I put posts up throughout the day, but that's it. And I created an agenda for that time period just to focus on the bigger picture of the business because we don't always get to work on the business. We are, working in the business most times, but we need to have that bigger picture and work on the business. So I do that for myself and for my businesses, but I also facilitate that for other businesses. And so you can, we can do that in a workshop format where you're, working on this with other people, or we can do that as a VIP business retreat day where it's just me and you in a room going over these things. We're going have snacks and lunch and all of this other stuff. So we needs are taken care of, but we're locked in. We're locked out from the world, but locked into the vision, overall vision and direction of your business and walk away with next steps for the growth of your business and typically when I do it for myself, I follow it up with, I block off my calendar for execution days. So I have, that time is not to do the stuff, that time is to figure out where we are and where we're going. And then it's followed up with days where, okay, now I'm implementing this thing, right? So more to come on that. I'll have a link in the show notes. If it's not in this week, it'll be in next week's because I am still working on getting that up. But I just wanted to mention that, especially when we're talking about reconnecting, right? And sometimes in the business, you need to reconnect to your vision and your direction because it may have changed. And one of my clients that we went through the process, that's what happened. Like in the middle of the session, we realized that her previous goals weren't her goals anymore, right? And so that allowed her to change direction. And it was, amazing because watching her light up, because it had been a while, because I know her personally, and it had been a while that she was kind of feeling stuck in like where to go next. But the problem was because she had switched destinations, right? And hadn't realized it. And so she was kept getting stuck because it's like, I'm not going in this direction anymore. I'm going this direction. And once that was clear, it just opened up so many opportunities, and it just, she's just been executing now because she's been able to see it more clearly. So I'll have that up for you guys soon. And the other thing to be on the lookout for, so in the next like couple of weeks, I'm going to start the promotion for Redefining Success Beyond the Grind Summit for 2027. Those of you that were there last year know that it was a phenomenal experience. The thing that was said so often was that everybody felt like it was a safe space. Everybody felt like there was, this unlike a lot of things where it's kind of like everybody's buttoned up and da da da. We don't do that. We are real. We are very real, very accessible, and I appreciate the vulnerability of all of my speakers as well as all of the attendees. Everybody just went in and, got what they needed from it, but also um, gave to one another, right? So it was an amazing, amazing experience. And it's just going to be even better next year. So I'm excited about that. So be on the lookout in the next like month, like well, I mean, we about to roll into a new month. So understand that that's going to be coming out soon. You want to get that early bird to make sure you get your seat at the best rate. Um, if you want to spread out payments, that gives you the option to do that as well. So I'm excited about that coming your way. I think that's it for the moment. If not, I'm gonna tell you about it next week, right? So, yeah, so I'm very excited. I next week I believe we're gonna have a guest episode, and I'm excited about that. I have a few guests lined up for the coming months. So I'm so excited for you to meet these people. I meet people when I get geeked out and I get excited to introduce you to them. With that, I'm gonna call it quits because we've been here for a little while. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening to the Prophets in Pajamas podcast. I hope you got some great tips to start working with these. Want to stay connected? Follow me at Your Workflow on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. For more information about creating balance in your life, register for my upcoming calendar detox challenge at CoachDanniD.com. Don't forget to subscribe, join the community, and book a call to find the workflow program that best fits your needs.